drifted alarmingly in the betting was, Fancier in the morning continued to drift. It was late on the exchanges to lose. It was something you'd see in a Dick Francis novel, Charles Burns.
The ground is soft. It's not.
It's heavy.
Hello.
Soft on times.
It's heavy.
Okay.
Yes. It's an action-packed show because, as we know, a lot's taken place this weekend. A lot of controversy. Certain jockeys retiring, not riding, going to be here next year, not going to be here next year. We had front runners galore, and there's plenty to chew the fat with. And I thank you very much this week for all your questions, because it's heartwarming to see so many people passionate about the sport still, despite the shit show that we keep getting dealt every week, or it seems that way, most weeks anyway, throughout a season. And joining me as usual are my two partners in crime. Love them to bits. John Lang and Lorne Malvo, Chris. Good evening, chaps.
Good evening.
Evening, everyone.
Yeah, we're all serious for this. So where do we start? I mean, John, I'm coming to you first, right? So we had this shit show start earlier this week, and the initial decision from Ascot was that they were going to bring in the possibility of racing on the inner track due to the state of the ground on the outer track, particularly on the round course, etc., etc. So that in itself is not very good for punters.
Well, there's parallels with this. Imagine you've been invited to a party. It's going to be packed with people you really get on with and have an absolute giggle with.
I don't know any of those, John, so we can only imagine that. Everyone thinks I'm a cunt. So.
Well, say there was half a dozen that didn't think you were a cunt, Chris, as well.
Yes.
And this party is 3 months hence, right? And all the time you're getting more and more news about it, Marcus Waring's catering it, and it's just going to be superb, it's going to be the best party you've ever been to. You can't wait. And then 2 days before it, somebody rings you and says, your ex-wife's coming, don't you?
It's funny as. Yeah, that is a good comparison. And I can testify here on an anti-post bet I had earlier in the week. I had the misfortune, as is the case lately. We're getting a lot of misfortune lately, aren't we, lads? So the bet was Via Sistina at 12-1 for the champion, and I had information that she was definitely going for the champion, not the fillies and mares. So I looked at the race and thought, my God, it's going to be like 4.7 on the round course. We're going to get very soft and heavy ground. What a bet that is. At 12-1, because I think she's a slop beast and she needs the slop. I duly set forth my people to go and get me on and get a few quid on.
It was going to be foie gras with the fillet, wasn't it?
And I stated to edge clientele that I felt that this would be 5-1 on this sort of ground, if that. So what was not to like about the bet? A fantastic bet. And then literally 30 minutes later, 30 minutes after, you get the old Ascot bulletin. And from the idiots there, and that was when they made that announcement. And what makes me mad, John, really boiling, is the fact that they were always going to do this no matter what, and we know this for a fact because Towser walked the course with the stakeholders, if you like, whoever the fuck the stakeholders are in the Champions Day meeting.
They got the stake the way he didn't.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And so that in itself tells you a story that I think they were wanting to give every chance to Mostadaf being able to turn up. And we've seen it with other Clarks before, with certain horses and courses. We've seen it at Haydock in the past, Clarks making sure a certain horse will turn up. This reeked of that. This absolutely reeked and stank of that. At all, basically getting as many stars. And there'll be some racing fans listening to this and say, well, why not? Why not try and get all the stars there? I get that. But I don't get it in the fact of fairness, because if I own Via Sistina, I'd be absolutely furious, because had that been on the round track, I'm pretty certain that if it had been run the same way as it was, which was strongly run, that Via Sistina would have probably won. She would have liked it better than King of Steel, being very tested. It's that it's punters every time, John. They get shafted in every single venture.
One of the management team at Ascot tweeted earlier in the week about everybody being delighted. It was all about the stakeholders, and what have you. I tweeted him back. I said, "Well, the punters, not stakeholders." I mean, needless to say, never come back to me. Um, I mean, let's not beat about the bush. It was a farce. I mean, moving races to the round course, for me, it sets a very unhealthy precedent. I mean, the straight course was virtually unraceable. Most of the horses that ran there patently failed to act on the ground. Anything going well enough in the first furlong to establish a lead was nigh on impossible to pass, wasn't it? And now the hurdles course, the straight is too short for anything resembling a championship anywhere, but they choose to overlook that. I think they got away with it to a certain extent. If Dettori hadn't had two winners, I think it looked a lot worse for racing, like as a whole entity going forward. I think that bailed them out a bit. And the story coming out of it, obviously, is Dettori winning the champion stakes on his allegedly last ride in Britain.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, so the optics, the PR is great for them, and as you
yeah,
say, they've
yeah,
got
yeah.
away with it. They have got away with it. But the point is, it just reinforces again the idea or the sentiment is that punters are consistently overlooked by the people that operate and run this sport. Right, at all
And,
levels, the punters are never ever considered, and they may, come back and say that's not the case. We consult with our customers. They don't. Punters, the people that fund this sport, are consistently overlooked, and that is the best example I think you can see from Saturday of punters just not people not giving a damn for the people that bet on the sport.
and I think another thing as well, the official going on the straight course was soft,
Mm.
not heavy. Come on.
The Times suggested sort of soft heavy in places, and the turf tracks give. I mean, they're not infallible in terms of their analysis. The thing for me, John, is the precedent that soft heavy in places is deemed now not acceptable for
Yeah,
championship racing. So what are we going to do? Are we going to cancel Arc Day when that turns up the flood weather? I mean, it's
that's it.
autumn for Christ's sake. Who are we pandering to,
Well, we're not
right?
allowed to race on quick ground in the
No,
summer, and we're allowed
exactly.
to race on wet ground in the winter. It's a
No,
bit,
Well,
you know,
we
it's
may as well
mad.
have three going types left. We may as well have good to soft
standard we
and
want.
standard. Yeah. It's interesting because I've seen lots of questions here regarding this, and and the consensus is a lot of people want the old calendar back. Luke, Ian Sadler, all want to go back. There's more than this as well. Sorry if I don't get to your name, but that they do want Champions Day to be run as it was.
The QE2 was a month earlier, wasn't it?
Yeah, I have a couple of ideas. This is one of them, and it's not possible to happen. So I don't know why I'm even saying it. But in an ideal world, you would have the champions meeting at Doncaster. It would piss off Leopardstown, but if you had the Champions Day meeting at the Ledger meeting and included the Ledger, the final classic, that would give that a boost because it's on Champions
Fantastic,
Day,
wasn't it?
right? You could have a 3-day Donny meeting, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's
That'd
as
actually be worth 3 days.
absolutely. And you have Champions Day at Doncaster, and the timing is perfection. Usually the grounds, occasionally you might get bad ground, but usually and the timing's right. It's after you do it maybe 4 weeks after York, so then horses can then prepare for a Breeders' Cup, or if they can come out quickly, go to the Arc. It's perfect for all. It's just timing, I suppose. Then could you say to Ascot, move it back to September? But I just like the idea of the oldest classic to have a bolstered.
It'd give the ledger a boost, wouldn't it?
It would, and it would, and like how we went on the last show about the old Triple Crown, and how we talked about City of Troy, and you said you think Magny will be knocking one out for that.
Well,
What an absolute major meeting, sort of like curtain.
day and a half, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a meeting I then look forward to, like with relish. But as it stands, it just doesn't work, and I think everyone knows that it doesn't work. They're having to if they're having to move tracks, and it shows what a farce the watering policy has been over the years, because it's showing now that tracks just cannot take rain. And the evidence or the proof in the pudding, so to speak, is the inner hurdles track, John, which doesn't get the amount of water chucked on it, right? And look, and that can take it, right? So that's the difference now. Say what we had 30 years ago to what we've got now. That you're seeing the results of Clark's now throughout the summer, just chucking plenty, and it doesn't take much. And I know people say, well, Ascot's had loads. Yes, they have, but this Clark is producing sort of 7.5 to 7.7 on day one of Royal Ascot in flaming June. So he's sticking absolutely bucketfuls on to get it to that level when probably doesn't need to.
You'd love to see stick ratings from like 76, 77, something like that, wouldn't you?
Well, you would. I mean, yeah, our very own Nick Davis, John. He did the research back through the Turf Tracks archive. It was familiar that Ascot, sort of like 15 years ago, we're getting stick readings at 10.5,
Oh, yeah.
10, 9.8 as good to firm, and we're still giving out as good to firm. Now, good to firm is sort of 7.8. 8, a lot lower than what the old good to firm.
They're either recalibrated or somebody's telling parties.
Right, anyway, we'll move on because we've got a lot to get through, and I do want to get round to most of your questions. But before we do that, we'll look at the racing, and there are some questions on the racing there. Obviously, the big talking points was the pace bias, which obviously was very prevalent. I thought it was more prevalent on the straight track, and that's not to say that it wasn't on the round, even though the held up horses won in the champion stakes. I do think the straight course, because it was softer, it was impossible to close. And the reason I give this, John, is in the Queen Elizabeth, Northern Gamblers have been on. They say did they allow Big Rock too much rope? Not according to the sectionals, they didn't. 92% the winner finished in, and nothing was closing. So he's gone too quick, and yet nothing made ground. And that tells you when there's a huge bias in terms of pace. I hope that answers some of your questions regarding rides on the day, but literally you couldn't win if you were out the back. And I mean, I feel more of an idiot in the last race, the Balmoral, John, back in sunny Liston, and I didn't go mad, but why did I do that? I sort of knew. I thought you can't win from the back. I still bet.
That's that tight on me bet on migration. I mean, I might as well have took the red. I mean, when you went out, I think it was 30 something on me.
It wasn't my finest decision. Right, let's go to the stayers. The Long Distance Cup. People have been on and said about the ride. Was Trawlerman necessarily a good ride in your opinion, John?
I thought he did exceptionally well to stay cool and not chuck everything at the horse when Ryan came up sides.
Yeah.
What I did think, I thought Ryan panicked a bit. He tried to get Kyprios to do it all from the 5 furlong pole. He never ever had a chance of getting any sort of breather into the horse. And I thought Kyprios' performance was absolutely fantastic in the circumstances.
I think he's much the
in
best.
defeat, he's probably put up his best ever effort there. And I thought that was incredible.
If you've bet Kyprios, I think you're remarkably unlucky. That's how I see it. And in fact, the sectionals bear that out, John. Ryan's error was from the 6 to the 2 pole.
6 out, yeah. Well, fair enough. I thought 5.
He used the gas too much, and I initially thought he dogged it. As he just chucked that away, because he's always had these quirks. Let's be fair, but no, he didn't chuck that away.
I was worried when he swept past Trawlerman turning in.
Yeah,
because I mean, I have this theory. I think if you ride an hold-up race and you're aiming to hit the front 2 furlongs out, you're trying to hit the front 2. So if you're holding up, you want to hit the front 50 yards out.
I saw Chris Poole say about Frankie in his 2 rides, that 2 winners, and he says not many jockeys had won on either of them. I sort of tend to agree with that.
Yeah.
The first one, especially, like you said, John, the fact he didn't mega press the button when Ryan went sweeping past.
I mean, especially in the circumstances as well. He's gagging for a winner that day.
Yeah.
And he was one bearing down on him. The temptation to give him a sharpener turning in must have been immense.
Art Power. in the 150. Did Tim Easterby listen to the bar stewards
Well, he must have done,
Friday
mustn't
pod?
he? Yeah.
Like posters of Curra all over the stable
Yeah,
box. He's took them down, and then he's put a big, like we used to get at school when them 60-inch, like the massive tellies that weighed about 7 ton on
yeah,
wheels.
yeah.
You know, that they used to wheel into classrooms. He's took one of them down because that's all they've got at
He's got the
Mix.
Furies playing all the way in the arse pocket.
And then they've mobilised that into the box, and then he's thinking, I'm at Curra. This is lovely. He's just got his mojo going. He obviously produced a great performance, but obviously the way the day's played out, we know that performance isn't as the quality
As
on it.
meritorious as it seems. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, he seemed to get it very easy the first 2 furlongs as well.
Yeah.
Nobody really went at him at all, did they? Dave couldn't believe his luck, I think.
Yeah. What about this? Dave Allen and Sam James riding Group 1 winners.
Dave's always had it in him, I think.
I like Dave, but Sam James, I mean, you'd put it this way, if you'd have said to me, right, we start flat season 2023, so this is one of your bet, and you said to me, you say, now then, Lee, I'll bet I'll have you an even monkey that Sam James rides a Group 1 winner this year. And I just, imagine paying that out.
I wish the hell he'd come off the fence and let man up the inside.
Oh, good God, yeah. Anyway, Kim
What I
Ross
couldn't understand was bloody McMonigle keeping him in.
Yeah, again, if you back Kyprios and Kinross, you're very unlucky. But we'll move on to 225 and discuss John's terribly unlucky bet when Culmore must have been watching that race, going, "What? Fuck off!" You know?
The next time anybody mentions Colmar team tactics, I'm just going to refer them to that.
Yeah.
I mean, what the hell was going on in McMonagle's head? I don't know.
Well, other thing is, McMonigle was one that did Dettori. Do you remember? Like,
yeah. He's got form for it on this day, hasn't he?
Yeah. He carved Dettori. Dettori were ready to kung fu him after
I
this.
think he must have people in Berkshire, and he goes on the Friday night and probably gets full of hell. Goes to a party, don't get a leg over, and all the rest of it. And turns up at races full of fuckers, thinks, bugger this, nobody's getting up that fucking insect,
The weird thing for me, we all bet on Red Riding, massive odds. And by the way, I couldn't believe the prices in running. I managed to get 100 quid in running at 75s. And this was when it was like sort of travelling, like sort of out of going into Swinley Bottom. I'm thinking, well, how can this be 75? It's had a lovely trip. It's been getting a lovely ride. So I was like thinking, and it's gone 6 in the run.
Yeah.
Gone 6. Above the curve was hanging into it. I don't know why it was hanging into it. It was like
he had his whip in his left hand.
Well, yeah, they were that. Probably there'll be people marking Jackie O up from position that came from, and probably rightly so. But like I say, I have my doubts on the dam on that. The mother was furiously temperamental but talented, and Poptronic was obviously a flattered winner of that. If you've backed that, well, collect, but it's just.
I'm really interested to see him. If we keep low stocking going, I'd be very interested to see her over 10 furlongs next year exclusively.
Yeah, I think you're right, John. She doesn't get the 12. I think we've seen that now. I think this is more of a Nassau filly, wouldn't you think?
I reckon so. I think going back to the Irish Oaks, everybody thought that Save the Last Dance grow another leg last 100 yards.
Yeah.
And I think it was more a case of blow stocking not seeing it out now with the benefit of extra hindsight from Chester and York and yesterday, But I don't think she's really run through the line at 12.
No, I completely agree with you on that. Going to the QE2 then, well, we already had a question from Northern Gamblers. Cheers, lads. Northern Gamblers Racing, they're a good set of lads. Horses with Grant Chua, knowledgeable set of people. Tom Wilson, very good with his 2-year-old assessments.
Apologies for our earlier remarks about Sam James.
they'll know that Sam's all right. He's a good lad. But to be fair, I had a chat with Koo on this, and I said, "Oh, Sam James and Dave Allen winning 2 Group 1s." Right. And Koo actually said, well, are they any worse than many of them? I think we're in an era. We said this on a previous show about many jockeys just being much of a muchness.
Yeah, I mean, I'd put Dave in like the middle rank, you know. I mean, I don't think Dave's shit by any stretch. I like Dave. Don't worry me if I'm back on Dave's on.
No. But I think we're not in an era at the moment where you know when you get a jockey booking,
Yeah.
and it's like you used to say, oh, like Edery's taking over from
Tony Proctor. No, he used to be Dick Hearn's second strings. Riding for Tony Ingham. Remember him? Yeah. Fucking hell, yeah. Or John Sutcliffe, somebody like that, yes.
Tony Proctor, yeah, I remember him. Edery takes over from Tony Proctor, where there's going to be £7 there. This is the thing. I don't think we're in an era now where if you take, say, Ailey Turner off and replace Ailey Turner with a sack of potatoes, you don't get much difference. But you know what I mean? Somebody random, somebody.
Molly Gunn. She could not ride a fucking bike. If you ever watch her, oh,
You see, real?
fucking dreadful. You'd have more chance strapping me on at 15 stone. Honestly, she is dreadful.
I didn't even know she was real. I thought I'd seen a cartoon with her in.
Yeah.
So where we were.
Changing jockeys, a jockey upgrade, in the old days. That's what you were saying. Yeah.
I'm not so sure that we're in this sort of era that. Would you both agree with that? Where the middle of the road people are just all very much of a muchness.
Totally. There's very few that you'd say, wow, yeah, okay, that upgrade is worth, a few lengths. They're all average.
They're all as error-prone as each other, shall we say.
Indeed. Right, so, going back to the QE2, where, like I say, we've already answered the Big Rock thing. Did he go too hard? I think it was one of them, though, as well, John. Some of these packed in quite early, as if to say, we're not fucking running in this.
That's why I wasn't having it from
after
running 2 furlongs.
Yeah, packed in, and maybe the long season, maybe that Davis was right on the flag.
Nobody came going. I mean, she was chucking the reins up at her after 2 furlongs.
And obviously the Siunis, Tahira, and the Well Bet. The lads apparently were in on Paddington. They were betting Paddington. I've heard on. I've heard there was a strong late support for the lads.
He said, I thought it looked fantastic pre-race.
Yeah. Well, he'd had the break, hadn't he? We said he.
It's about the best I've seen him look at.
Yeah.
So much for paddock watch.
I think that's it, though. I think in that ground. We said at Goodwood he looked shit.
I think he had a sickness, maybe at Goodwood.
Ken Petson thought he looked outstanding yesterday and at Goodwood and every time he's ever run.
Oh, well, at least I'm on par with Ken then.
3:45 race. People have said that why questioning the ride. Some people have messaged and said about King of Steel getting a real dropout ride. The key to this race, though, was the furious early pace in this. They'd obviously worked out, but it took them 5 races. But they worked out that you had to be on the front end, and they went absolutely Dr. Bernardo's, just lights out stuff. And the 2 that were held up next to last, and the one just around them, Horizon Door, that was 3rd. You saw a monumental pace collapse here.
Cut across you, Lee. I think that emphasises the point you made before about the quality of rider. We're not necessarily talking about style, but it's just their inability, almost across the board, with a couple of exceptions, to read the conditions of the track on any given day. It took them 5 races to work out you needed to be at the front end, and that's the problem. And whether it's the British Racing School just churning out the same type of riders, style or strength, or any of the things that you see, visually, it's the fact that they just don't seem to have a racing brain. A lot of these riders, day after day, you look at the way they position themselves in races and the pace races on all weather staying conditions. It's just they're always wrong, and I don't understand why that is. Tactically,
to my everlasting shame, I've never sat in one of Richard Perham's instructional courses. But I would bet good money that pace biases on tracks I never ever discussed.
But that's key to being a jockey. It's not about just sort of riding the horse. It's riding the horse to obtain the best possible outcome. And it's weird.
I genuinely think you'd find that everything that's covered is to do with the mechanics of horse riding.
True story, this. I once sat down with Jacob Butterfield with all my betting knowledge and pace sheets, and I gave him all my pace sheets and actual over expected and track positions where you want to be, draw biases, you name it, I gave it him the lot. Sadly for poor Jacob, he didn't get any rides. I really wanted him to succeed because he'd come on the scene at Brian Ellison's, and then he went to Ollie Pears. And I was hoping for him to succeed because I thought, well, if I can get an in here and I can say to him, if he rings me up on a morning and says, well, where would you put this? Then I thought, well, it's good for my punt and it's good for him. So I thought this would be a reciprocal arrangement. Sadly, the lad just didn't get the amount of rides that you'd have
You can understand the trainer's caution, though, because he'd be carrying £10 overweight with all the fucking paperwork, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I did. I went round with it, and because we're going in the days before, like where everyone had people did have computers and phones, of course they did. But we play on Betfair. But what I'm trying to say is that weren't as online as what it is now. It was, I did go around with a load of paperwork for him, to basically so wherever you rode, you'd be able to see how advantageous it is, where you should sit. So it didn't do him much good, but. But then I don't think he ever got the quality of rides that he probably needed to succeed. But there we go. It is what it is. Right, so anything in eye-catch in the champion, John, behind the obvious? Obviously, O'Sheen dropped the whip on Versestina, which didn't help.
Less said about that, the better, I think. The one that I did come to a conclusion about that I think if they think about it, could have a really good year next year if they keep him going, would be Point Lonsdale. I thought he ran a tremendous race considering he was second early on and managed to keep going for fourth. When good horses like Man Prospero, Bay Bridge, etc., dropped out the back of the telly. I don't think this horse has been very well campaigned this year. I thought at the start of the season, I thought it looked absolutely bullish on debut at the Curragh and pretty magnificent at Chester second time up as well. I thought he'd done really well 3 to 4. And then we got 2 runs at a mile and a half. I mean, for me, Peyton didn't stay at Epsom and they still persisted going to Ascot. And they more or less wasted him at Leopardstown. The ground was probably quicker than he wants as well. Think on Chester was described as soft, it was probably heavy. It was heavy at the Curragh when he won on debut. Now, if he was mine, I know I'd sell him and live off the process, but if he was mine, somebody said I had to keep him going, he'd be like all over Germany and what have you next year. Because, I mean, for me, he'd win a gross prize run in a common canter. I think you could do some damage on the continent with him. With his
like an EU globetrotter.
Yeah. I mean, I think he'd mop up with him, to be honest.
Yeah, fuck the Balmoral because the Kilt won it, and Sonny Liston is the one to take out. That shaped like the best horse of the race.
Very punchy
That's
performance. That
to people. Yeah, that was.
I'm here all week. Try the steak and don't forget to tip your waitress. Yeah.
Christmas cracker jokes.
I was a bit amazed Haley managed to find a bit of trouble on Docklands just over the quarter-mile pole coming from the back. The way they were sitting out, I thought there was so much aim with that. Runs up the back of one, but there you go.
Well, she's done a bit of that at a time. Right. Right, coming on to a small matter of Frankie Dettori. Yes. What was it like for all you people listening back home? Alan March sets the tone here, which is the most tedious. Champions Day itself, Dettori retirement, or Turner 1,000 winners. It's 2 to 1 each of 3 for him. How do we sit on Dettori this weekend? John? What's your take on it?
Throughout his career, he's been somebody I could take or leave. To be honest, I mean, I've never taken to all the bullshit, the flying dismounts, the come on me, and all this bollocks. I mean, I think he's an outstanding jockey. He's been tremendous at rope race level for 30 plus years. You can't argue with his record. Um, just certain aspects about the retirement I find particularly nauseating. The worst thing I found was John Gosden trying to take a bit of credit for Frankie being the jockey that he is. He did say, it's hard to manage as Alec Ferguson found somebody or other. It might have been Beckham, or whatever. And I mean, Gosden didn't really manage him, did he? I mean, the first sign of any trouble, Gosden's got him on a sabbatical. The person that should have got the credit really was Luca Kamani. He gave him the grounding in the sport.
Mm.
And he told him going to Hong Kong was a load of bollocks when he was just out of his time. And if he hadn't, I mean, I know he couldn't go eventually because of the drug thing, but if he'd gone, he wouldn't have made half of what he's made, you know. And Luca Kamani was the one who had his head switched on properly there. And Barney Curley took him to Gosden, didn't he, when he was more or less in disgrace? Gosden needed a jockey, so everything fell right for him. But for Gosden to say, hard to manage and all this, I mean, come on.
Oh, cringy, isn't it? Horrible, wasn't it? I just find the whole thing so cringy. It's just ridiculous. I just hated every second of it. And I think the trainer Tony Mullins put out a tweet saying that racing, can never repay the debt it owes to Dettori. A multi-millionaire that's earned huge sums of money from the sport, and we're expected to be in his debt. That's the kind of mad thinking, I'm afraid, that permeates all aspects of the sport. Because frankly, the guy is, Curly says, oh, we need to take her out as, and etc., etc. What's the Tory given the sport, really? Everything he's done legitimately has been for his own enrichment. He's not riding these horses for fun or for a hobby. He's riding them to earn money. So racing owes him nothing, frankly. In fact, the other way around. He owes racing for giving him an opportunity to earn lots and lots of money. So I don't get it.
The chanting even at Ascot Saturday.
Yeah.
Oh, Frankie Dettori.
Yeah. No, it's cringeworthy.
I admit I had the sound down after the King of Steel win, and I don't know if that's me being an old miserable bastard, but I couldn't cope with it. I couldn't cope with what was, as soon as the pundits started. I that was it. The mute was on. The producer was the same as well. Like she was like, oh no, I can't be doing any of this. It's as if I mean, that's why I was so, not just for my own bet on Via Sistina, but I thought, no, not this. No. We don't want this fest. And we got it. And only Bobby Charlton's kept him off the back pages. That was the blessing.
Thanks, Bobby. Done us a there, boy.
Good old Bobby. What a day to go, Bobby. You've done us all a favour. But have we, though? We've got racing fans on the show that are saying, what are you guys saying? Don't want racing on the back pages? Maybe that's a fair valid point. I think for the nauseating level of how he's gone about this year, most jockeys, when they retire, in fact, most jockeys in my lifetime, all they've ever done is say, right, they'll announce it maybe a week or two before they go and say, that's me, this will be my last season, and not make us...
I think it was quite telling that Paul Hannigan got a guard of honour from his colleagues going out for his last ride. And where was that yesterday?
Good point. Very, very good point. Which again shows that he's not retiring. He's going to ride in America for a cushy job in the winter, and he will be back at the Royal Meeting next year. In fact, I'll guarantee you that if King of Steel stays in training as a 4-year-old, he'll probably be on King of Steel's every ride next year. So that is all to play out. And again, it's nauseating for us racing fans and fanatics because we know the score. Unlike the media and everyone else, listening to Nick Luck, we talk about Julie Harrington as a careerist waffle bag. I had Nick Luck as a pundit waffle bag, as he's waffling on the way to the start. as Frankie's cantering towards the starting stalls, and he said about, this is Frankie's last ever ride, or maybe it isn't. And he made about 3 or 4 different maybes, and I thought, why have you just wasted airtime on that? What on earth are you talking about? Not his last ride. He's going to ride in America. He will be back at Royal Ascot next year, and like I said, I'll make a prediction that he'll ride King of Steel. If King of Steel stays in training, which I believe he will, he'll be riding King of Steel on every ride next season. It's all bullshit. It's BS. Like you said, John, earlier in the show, Frankie saved Champions Day from being a total PR disaster. That's where Ascot probably are grateful for Frankie doing what he did yesterday. But as we know, all racing fans, true racing fans, we know the score. We know the score.
He earned his statue yesterday because Ascot have been getting pelters today.
Absolutely. Yeah, they've staved it off. Same with the Bobby Charlton thing that has kept him out of the back pages of the mainstream news. Some will see that as a bad thing, that racing didn't get more highlights in that respect. Some people might see it as a good thing.
It was just horrible, and I it's just ITV seemed very good at fawning over people, but yesterday was just, I think they excelled themselves, frankly.
Yeah, it was poor. Onwards and upwards. Right, we'll change the mood. It's your questions time, and we're going to start it off with a random one from Alan Vegetables. I thought this was quite good because I actually read the thread on, and it's how many fish fingers are classed as a portion. Even though this is a racing podcast, I think this is vital in people's lives. Fish fingers have been a stable diet, especially in northern people's lives, Chris, for a long time.
Yeah, poor people.
Poor people's lives, right, for a long time. I confess, I've demolished boxes when pissed. So what, Chris? I don't know if you eat fish.
I do, but Captain Birdseye, mate, only salt to have. Yeah, right.
So what's classed as a portion? How many?
6 with a portion of chips, peas, and ketchup.
6. Interesting. I'll be honest. If Jess gets some fish fingers in, I always ask the quantity of the box size. If there's so if there's 20, I'll have 10. But like if there's 10, I'll have 5. I'll always have half the box, whatever that. So I've got 2 goes at it. That's me. John, you.
Well, I asked this question in the house yesterday. Haley said 4, and I said, "You're fucking joking me." And I actually went and had a look at the box. We have a box of fish fingers in the freezer. There was 20 odd in this box. I think it was 24. But they weren't just fish fingers. They weren't codfish fingers, so nobody's going to eat them anyway. Looking at the size of the box, it's about the size of a bloody good portion of fish from G's Golden Chippy at Brookfield, Middlesbrough, one of the best.
John's getting free fish and chips.
Yeah, fucking right he is.
So thinking about it, 24 isn't out of the equation, is it, really?
Fucking hell, what's wrong with you people? 24 fish fingers?
I've done 20.
Volume-wise.
Oh, that's disgusting.
On what you can eat from a fish shop, Chris, volume-wise, I don't think there'll be a lot of difference between a good-sized fillet of cod battered and a box of fish fingers.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, you're right.
You're having a party and those 6 people coming, you need 6 boxes.
Producer's just giving me 4.
It's a woman thing then, isn't it, 4?
That's the also official stance is 4. It says the official guidance. Get guidance for everything these days, don't we? Fucking fish fingers. 4.
Here's another thing that I never realised as well. When did Captain Birdseye get an upgrade?
Well, it's promotion. No one wants to go at sea anymore, do they? So by default, he's the captain.
No, but do you remember when Captain Birdseye was this white-bearded dude, wasn't he?
With all children as his crew. I mean, what the fuck was that about? You know what I mean? I'll take your kids to sea with a middle-aged man with a beard.
Yeah, but now you've got this like ruggedy-looking middle-aged gadget jumping in the sea with the kids. Captain Birdseye loves going swimming with his grandchildren.
Well, it's a subliminal message from the Olympics.
Well, it must be. It's like the Scouts, isn't it? We'll put your kids in a uniform and we'll take them away to the forest for the weekend without their parents. Oh, okay, that sounds safe. With a load of fucking with a load of bachelors who in their time, and these are people that choose to spend their time around children for no pay. Can you think of anything worse than spending your weekend surrounded by a load of kids unless there's something wrong with you? Fucking hell, honestly.
I have never looked at it like that ever in my life.
Well, I think you start reevaluating things, I think.
That is unbelievably weird, isn't it? Like you say, why the fucking hell would you volunteer to look after kids for nothing?
Exactly. I couldn't think of anything worse. Can you imagine that?
They couldn't put enough money on the table.
Awful. Dodgy. And people who own caravans as well, they're on the list.
I said that the way to solve the shortage of finances in government is to charge £250 a year to every caravan owner, as a road tax, and that brings in plenty, absolute plenty, full of idiots.
Yeah, well, if they want to catch paedophiles, just look at the National Caravan Association Club membership list. They're all on there. Or go to the Isle of Wight. I promise you. Fucking hell, with a big net.
We've got the Isle of Wight tourist board soon, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Grossly offensive content.
Grossly offensive content, indeed. Apple clean. It's all right. We're not slagging the BHA, so no one will complain.
They'll find a reason, don't worry.
Interesting question to start us off. Just finish off Champions Day questions then. RD has been on. The condescending nature of the racing media to any northern winner never fails to amaze me. John, is that something that do you think? I'm asking a silly question. Is racing
massively so?
Even though the owners are mega wealthy, it's just because it's trained.
No, isn't it? Both owners, Christ Almighty, they could buy old Oban or wherever it is and turn it into flats, couldn't they? If they wanted out of their ass pockets. You get this patronising thing about the little guy from Hoop North winning the big pot. You know, and let's be fair, it's a load of bollocks, isn't it? I mean, the days of the Easterby's training the likes of Lockmaker to win a July Cup, they're long over. I mean, the only way Tim's going to train a Group 1 winner is when it's for King Power. I mean, Carl Berg, he's got massive investment from the Sheikh and...
Miles Rogers. No, not Miles Rogers.
Miles Rogers.
No, he's long gone.
You love a Benton, Chris. You love
I do.
You love
I do.
They've got good owners, haven't they? And they've got good owners to get the job done. You know, I mean, the pair of them are probably better than half in your market.
Definitely. Amen to that. Yeah, that they've, he has...
Bidders has been on. If I wanted to watch tired horses slogging through a bog in slow motion, I'd be a Jumps fan. Should I have a lobotomy so I can enjoy Champions Day next year? Indeed. Yeah. We should...
He hasn't enjoyed it, has he?
He had a face like Happy Tim, even after when Happy Tim won Group 1.
Yeah, he thought he was going to fart, didn't he, Tim? But holding it in.
A lot of people's been on, just reading through some of the questions. It relates to the Clark, Stickles, for example. We're in unanimous agreement here that the watering at Ascot is a disgraceful policy this year by Stickles. Are we in agreement with that? Yeah, John, has it become a kip now? You get miserable in July. So, you're happy when the flat starts, right? And then, so John's happiness trail throughout the summer.
I'm briefly happy for about 6 weeks.
The Dante meeting comes and John's bouncing. Guinea's Dante meeting, loves it. He's full of life. And then
Ascot comes
out. Are we getting to that stage? Because now because it never used to be like that, but then it's becoming like that, and you're becoming the same to Ascot as you are to the July meeting and Goodwood.
I mean, I genuinely don't want to, but I feel that too. I mean, after Ascot this year, I made a point of saying I think we can bin all that form.
Yeah.
To my mind, it told us nothing.
I'll tell you what, one big tip that I'm going to give now on this show for next year's Ascot meeting, watch where the chariots come. That's going to be the key to the quickest racing line. Watch where the chariots go, because the chariot track form last year, this year at Ascot I thought was remarkable. If you watch the replays, that was the place to be on that track. There was winners and placed all the time, where Charlie and the Fat Royals.
Bradshaw was right on the tram lines, wasn't he?
Honestly, it can't be denied. That's the game next year, right? It's chariot track for Ascot next year. So thanks, bidders, for that. Philip Doxy's been on. He's giving you a lot of credit for Art Power winning, John. That was a great tip.
Tim did the business. He got the photo outside Power's box and give him the soda bread for breakfast and had the music playing in the horse box. Oh, you
like Temple Bar, isn't it? Like
yeah.
box. PJ Butler's been on it again. This is a great point. Will Ascot lob some flights on the flat track in a few weeks when Endo moans about the ground on the hurdles course?
Probably a good idea, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, why not? You've switched it to that for Champions Day. Why not switch it to the bog? Yeah, when Endo wants his cut in the ground. Absolutely, great point, PJ Butler. I like that one. That's funny. Frederick Van Nurgle sounds like a future, I don't know, Dutch guest even. Yeah. He said, "Fuck Ascot as a betting rule. Fuck it right off."
You just sound like a future guest.
Future presenter.
But
yeah,
John, don't you think it's a concern though? Because a lot of feedback we've got on our timeline, which we know we're a critical podcast, but we don't always get feedback as bad as this. But the point is, Ascot are all patting themselves on the back.
Will they, won't they? I mean, let's be fair. Sugar Cup, the racing league, we know it's not working, but there's one entity in racing who won't have it, and that's Great British Racing. This will be the same. No matter how much anything shows them that it's not working, they'll persist and they'll persist and they'll persist because they won't be wrong. They won't hold their hands up and say, we got this wrong, we're going back. Or we've listened to the Barstewart Inquiry or whatever they are.
Well, look at Andrew Cooper, he did.
Yeah, but he's not really part of the narrative. This wonderful narrative that Rod Street's people came up with, wasn't it? To have the championship decided and Jockey's Championship, the Trainers' Championship isn't decided on that, is it? That's another misnomer. But they wanted a narrative to the season, didn't they? And that's their story, and this is exactly what they want. And I think it's also worth mentioning as well that the pack of results that they got, somebody will mention when they're all sat around the table reviewing it, like they reviewed the National, that the results were very good for gross profits tax, which, again, I think a salient point in the circumstances, because I cannot and will not have gross profits tax being anything other than an immoral position for racing to take.
Lewis has been on get the tapeter down, like others have said. I think Peter Robinson has said tapeter within 10 years, John, at Ascot. That's his prediction. I mean, this would be terrific, wouldn't it?
Fantastic. You can't come soon enough. I could have it for next season for me.
Of course, as always, the Barsters mantra is sprayed green. No, it looks like Carolyn Harris. ITV. There's been loads of questions on ITV. The problem is, I don't watch it. I do, and I don't. I might watch it some weeks if I'm bored. Anyway, there's been some comments on ITV and jockey intros in particular. So W's been on. With ITV Racing seemingly intent on introducing jockeys into the paddock, like heavyweight boxers would enter the ring, what walk-on songs would best suit each jockey and why? Can Chris or John, can you think of any jockeys that would benefit from a certain song?
Bloody
I think maybe you could have Frankie coming into Rabbit by Chaz and Dave.
Well, after he's had about seven lines at Finest Columbia.
Well, he certainly won't stop talking, will he?
He won't stop talking. I love it. Yeah, that's good.
Anything by Leonard Cohen for Ryan.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. God.
Or Radiohead. and now here's the latest from Radiohead.
Ailey Turner, you'd play some Miley Cyrus stuff, wouldn't you?
Wrecking Ball.
Okay.
Married Wrecking Ball.
I came in like...
I only needed a prompt, eh?
Yeah, that's good enough, We've done that. Yeah, I like that one. Ailey Turner, Wrecking Ball. Chris, you've got to like that one, Ailey Turner rides.
That's a cracker. Or Jolene, don't take your love to town. Fucking...
Don't take
I
your
think plenty
love
of
to
people.
Jamie.
Yeah. I think plenty of people will be singing that, wouldn't they?
Billy Loughlin had paper lace. Billy don't be a hero.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Great question. Kevin Duffy. Young people aspire to be and are envious of sporting heroes. Few aspire to be sub 9 stone men. Also, the best of them are the least dramatic. Their skills one with the horse's ability. Gamblers and intrigue is where the public's interest can be engaged, but they want to kill that.
Can't argue
Yeah.
with that,
It's
really.
a great, yeah, yeah.
It's a great point.
Mm.
Yeah. You're not going to get heroes from the participants in sport, that in horse racing. That's the problem, and that's the mistake these marketing wonks always make. That's not why people enjoy the sport.
Coming to this point, it's a good one, and it's pertinent because it's the times we live in as well. Believe it or not, Johnny G. Towser was on Dick Luck this morning, and he said about risk and people's view of risk in life and why we're sort of failing as a society in terms of animal rights are protesting against horse racing when like literally there's risks to everyone, literally from a stable staff employee opening a stable door and a horse might kick or lash out, or there's
Yeah.
there's so much risk in everyone's life, and he was really good actually. It's on racing TV on, or you built.
You're a sellout. You thought he was good.
I thought it was
Fucking
good.
hell, you
I thought it
sold
was
out
good on
then.
that in terms of like this is how life should be run, and it brings me to the point, like I said, we affordability with COVID, as we lived through those times, how people fannied over COVID at 99.7% survival rate, the same as 99.7% on the gambling, suicides, etc., and this, that, and the other. That why are we developing so many fannies and victimhood? That life is there for living and experiencing, and yeah, shit happens. Shit will always happen. But why have we seen in the last 3 years where people fawn over victimhood, Chris? Why is this happening? Why have we embraced this?
It's social control, isn't it? Without getting all Bob Lazar, the fact is that governments and those who control governments are looking to control people's behaviour. So everything is about mitigating risk. Because governments don't want people to do what's in their own best interest, to behave in a manner that the government wants them to behave in. So it's all about doing engaging in activities that are approved. That's the problem, and you saw it with COVID. So they're looking for a compliant population. That's the difficulty, and that's why that speaks to affordability. It speaks to COVID. It speaks to any number of activities which are deemed to be inappropriate. And and people who kind of are victims of behaviour that the government deems to be unreasonable or unsuitable are held up as examples of why what the government's doing is a good thing. Because look, so and so's wrecked his life. They turned it around. This is why we're sort of looking to mitigate gambling harm. And it's the whole narrative is all about the victim.
Mm. And I think it's a dangerous path to tread down, because we all know that life has risks in any shape or form. Anything that we do, literally anything, driving a car anywhere, it all has risk. Flying on a plane, going on a boat, swimming in the sea, anything. It always has a certain element of risk. Well, what percentage that is. But I just think that we're going down a path now of eradicating life as we know it and enjoy it, because the sport of horse racing, I would say it's safe, but in modern society it's not considered as safe.
No, but the point you've made about life is for living, that requires people to exercise free will, and governments don't want you to do what you want to do. They want you to do what they tell you, and that's the problem. Free will is a dangerous thing, because people with free will look at governments and say, "Hang on a minute, we're being ripped off here. Let's vote them out or let's overthrow them." So a compliant population is good for the status quo.
But Johnny G, for once, makes a good point. Tips to long odds being on. He said, "I see Megs as dump Kev." Yes, that's it. Actually, correct. Well, I won't say poor Kev, from what I've heard, but I'm not going to say it on this podcast. Poor fellow lost the purple job, and his woman dumped him straight away. Shows what type of woman she is. Tips are long odds. I can honestly tell you that's not the case. The Kevin Meg story, it's quite sad, really, because basically we're dealing with a young, sort of decent jockey, and obviously he's famed media former jockey partner, and it's not gone well. And yeah, it's one of them things. But I can honestly tell you, tips are long odds, that's not the case. I'm Team Megs on this one. But anyway, that's all I'm prepared to go on that one. So, Chris, John, any more points we can make on this show, or are we done?
I think we're done.
Pretty much done and dusted. Bring on
Good
the
stuff.
jumps.
No, let's not bring on the jumps. Though having said that, after this weekend, maybe bring on the jumps. But there we go. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye for now.